Welcome to this webinar today. The topic of the webinar, as you all know, is seamless global payments, understanding the habits of the modern consumer. We have a very, very interesting discussion that is going to take place between Andrew Nelson, that is head of FX brokers at Visa Direct. Hi, Andrew. And Damien George, that is director at UK FX Holdings and Travel FX. The topic is promising, the speakers are very promising, and we have a lot of attendees coming and joining us. So we hope that it's going to be up to everybody's expectations and interest. The format of the webinar will be the following. So we will have about a 30 minutes discussion between Andrew and Damien. And after that, we're going to have a short Q&A session. So everybody that is not familiar with Zoom and everybody that is, there is a section within the platform that you can see Q&A. And there is also a chat. So you can use either or to ask questions to specific panelists, or you can share your inputs and your questions on the Q&A section. At the time of the Q&A, I will be going through the different questions and be selecting the ones that we can possibly cover. We aim at finishing in 45 minutes, more or less. For those that are joining late or that cannot stay till the end, there is going to be a recording at the end of the session. So all of this is going to be available on our YouTube channels, on Finance Magnates YouTube channels, and on our social medias, LinkedIn, so on and so forth. My name is Andrea Badiola Mateos. I'm the Chief Commercial Officer at Finance Magnates, and it's my pleasure to be moderating and emceeing this webinar today with these two wonderful professionals. With that said, I'm going to ask each of them to introduce themselves a tiny bit, what they do within each of their companies, and then we're going to kick off the conversation. So who wants to start?
Looks like I drew just short straw here, so I'll go first. Obviously, I'm Damien. I run two companies, UK FX Holdings, which is a regulated EMI in the UK, and I also run a traditional travel money business, which is an online bureau de change, which is quite an interesting business. I've been running both of these businesses now for over 15 years. We've dealt with the travel and money business. We have approximately 200,000 plus customers each year, and that use us for a variety of reasons, including straight up travel money, but to pay builders, pay staff, give to loved ones, pay school fees and all sorts. And and we also run the payment side, which it supports the travel sector to a greater extent, with payments abroad for invoices, suppliers, and booking holidays and of the like. So thank you for the invite to come and have a chat today.
Thank you, Damien. Andrew.
Great, thanks, Andrew, and thanks, Damien. Hello all, welcome. Very excited to be here today. I've been in the FX international cross-border payment space for over 2 decades now, firstly with an FX brokerage called HIFX, more latterly rebranded XE.com under the Euronet umbrella. I had the opportunity then to build and lead commercial and product teams, and since then I joined Currency Cloud in 2015, so almost 10 years ago. But more recently, since the acquisition by Visa, I head up the FX brokerage division for Visa Direct in Europe. So the FX brokerage brokers under that division, they are a specialist, very special part of our business, looking after and supporting the needs of consumers and SMEs, corporates who are looking to make international payments and FX payments as well. So it's fantastic to be with you and looking forward to the chat.
Thank you so much, Andrew. Thank you, Damien. So without any more delay, we still have people joining, but since we gave it 8 minutes over the time of starting, so we're just going to go ahead and start the conversation. And again, this webinar is recorded, so anybody can consult it afterwards. Now, let's kick things off. What is for each of you, your perspective on how the instant global payment space has evolved in recent years. I mean, we're talking a lot lately about instant payments, real-time payments. It's becoming almost like a term coined that everybody's using it. It's being talked about constantly. We recently had our Finance Magnates London Summit about 2 weeks ago, and it was a high topic of discussion among many different brokers, actors in the payment space. Real-time payments and instant global payments it's something that has evolved a lot. So what is your perspective on how this has evolved, and what makes it, in your opinion, such a critical area for different businesses today?
Yeah, I think this is one of these areas we probably should look at where we came from. It wasn't very long ago that before faster payments, we had the old back system for payments in the UK. And typically a payment would take 3 to 4 days to arrive from one customer's account to the other, and it wouldn't even be cleared funds. So, and where you look at the faster payment and SEPA Instant now, the payment can take less than 1 or 2 seconds to arrive with the beneficiary, which obviously that speed delivers massive cost savings and certainty for businesses. Because I think at the end of the day, businesses need to operate knowing that they're getting paid. If they're not getting paid, they're in a timely fashion, they can't pay their bills. So it's one of the most important things is the speed and the cost savings identifies, because it frees up the cash flow. Because instead of waiting 4 days for funds, they've got the funds available instantly. They can pay their suppliers instantly, and the goods just move that little bit faster, especially when a customer is a little bit indecisive. So it can actually result in a successful sale, where if it takes 4 days, the customer can walk away from the transaction, or think again, or have buyer's remorse. So I think it's a significant issue for consumers and businesses today.
I would probably, yeah, I completely agree. I think the changes have really been driven as well by the kind of expectations that we have as consumers, like instant everything, on demand everything now. If you think about just the way we consume television and media and all things like that, it's basically a reflection of that. And certainly as a consumer, you have certain expectations, and then as a business as well, you kind of now have that similar expectation that the systems you use, and as you're making payments or receiving payments, you expect to have that same experience as you would do as a consumer. So I think that's one of the key things. And another thing maybe driving it has been quite a mindset shift from like the payer choice, so the payer of those funds choosing how to make the payment, to really towards the beneficiary choice. So you think about the shift towards wallets, for example. That's how they want to kind of run how they want to be able to access their funds. So their business needs to react to that as well. So the move towards instant everything and towards to wallets as well has been a real key shift over the last few years. A lot of that's probably been driven, if you think back to a time, very long time ago, something called COVID-19, where we saw such a drive towards e-commerce. I think now we're talking about up to 50% of transactions being conducted online. It's something which has driven then a lot of those expectations from consumers, and therefore into businesses as well. So lots of change.
Yeah, I think that at the moment, it's a key factor when it comes to even peer-to-peer transactions from one to the other, small and medium enterprises, as you were mentioning, Damien. But I would like to ask you, Damien, specifically in your businesses. I mean, you have very specific businesses, and travel, for example, is
Huge.
delicate in terms of transactional time between receiving the funds and confirming a product purchase. So how would you say it has impacted your business specifically in the last period of time? Andrew is mentioning COVID. Have you felt any significant difference?
Yeah, COVID was definitely an interesting time for travel. That's an understatement and a half. What we're actually seeing now is, as Andrew's alluded to, is the wallets being with instant payments, because traditionally a travel company would have one currency account. They'll either be in GBP or Euro, and they would charge their customers in their native currency. So therefore, then if a travel agent in Europe wanted to charge a UK customer, they issued an invoice in euros. With a combination of sterling wallets and with faster payments now, they can issue the payment in the local currency in sterling. And the customer will pay them, we'll do the FX for them and get the money to them. And the money can be, the whole transaction can take less than 15 seconds with automation. It's a massive change where the travel agent before would be waiting for days on end, asking the customer, have you sent an international transfer yet? Or has it got logged in the system? And while SWIFT has been a fantastic mechanism to send international payments for many years, it's SEPA instance a whole different level, and it just sort of gives the businesses much greater certainty on the transactions when they got it, because once the funds arrive, the funds are clear funds for them. So they just know that everything is all good. They can move forward and they can know with certainty that they're getting paid.
Yeah, the risk is definitely reduced greatly.
Yeah, there's significant time range where SWIFT payments were getting, because you could either send a priority or this is standard. It could take 4 days to arrive in the EU bank account. Also, too, there was the reduction in the fees associated. I think most SEPA payments now are in between a couple of pence to a couple of pounds, where SWIFT transactions for international payments for travel agents, they could arrive 100, 200 pounds short. And so it's or 100 euro short because of all the fees of intermediary banks and things like that. So instant payments has been a godsend for most businesses in reducing their costs and the speed and certainty of the payment.
I think to add to that as well, I think that one of the key enhancements has been that interconnectivity. I'm thinking about like the network that as a provider, Visa Direct have built out a huge network and a leading network, and it's one which, you know, you think about the FX side of things, but then connecting into best-in-class local payout providers to facilitate that. So as you said there, how that benefits the end customers or the receiving party, you know, enhances liquidity, cash flow, improves that customer satisfaction, and really it provides a competitive edge in what's now a very much a globalized market. So I think it's that interconnectivity is also really important.
Yeah, absolutely. You look at the Visa direct payout options. I think it's 100 plus countries you can pay out almost instantly, versus trying to do payments via SWIFT. Again, wonderful product, but just too slow and too clunky for most businesses these days.
I'm going to just absolutely. The one thing I was going to say, what an interesting stat I saw last week on the SWIFT side of things is we've actually seen a fair amount of innovation there driven by SWIFT GPI, which if you think about the increased transparency that's kind of provided as a response to enhancements in blockchain or in the local instant payout network. So even on the SWIFT side of things, the consumers or the beneficiaries, I should say, are receiving better outcomes.
Yes, you're 100% right. We're seeing an increase as well in the request for, if we do bank payments via SWIFT, for the GPI tracker, which is brilliant. It's almost the pizza oven. Shows you exactly where your payment is in the process, and it gives clarity where it's getting stuck as well. So you can actually pinpoint if something does go wrong. You can pinpoint, that is not to be underestimated, that importance versus the local payments, because one of the instant payment drawbacks is if something goes wrong, it gets a little bit more difficult to rectify. Where SWIFT, you actually can have there's a process to rectifying most payments that go wrong.
Yeah, and I think when you talked about it earlier on, the pivotal thing is the funds arrive super quickly, and then within that kind of timeline, that's incredible. When things do go, and they can go wrong, that you have that ability to intercede and to help out and to kind of get that back up on the golden path, as it were. So no, it's overall, I think in terms of the payments innovation, there's been huge kind of changes over the course of the last few months, and with the addition of pay to card and pay to wallet and all those additional enhancements, where we see the FX brokerage space is we used to just really focus on, or the brokers used to focus on the FX being a core part, being the core part, but actually FX is ancillary to the payment. You know, the essence is that the originating business or consumer just is making a payment, just happens to be in a different currency. So that's the point there. And as we are in certainly an increasingly globalized world, that kind of mindset is pivotal as you think about innovating and going, well, you know, Swift was acceptable at one point in time. Local instant is now the standard, basically. So we need to think forward and go, where is our business going to be in 5 years' time? What is the innovation we need to be thinking about now and building a strategy to that to ensure we're staying ahead of competitors, staying relevant to market, to carry on driving new customer acquisition and retention, customer satisfaction. So it's a really interesting time, and it's certainly something which it's delivering much better user outcomes, so customer outcomes, which is ultimately the most important thing.
On that note, Andrew, what do you think are the trends that are currently being missed by businesses on the consumer side, right? We're talking about the consumer habits. So what are the trends that you think some businesses might not yet fully appreciate?
I mentioned it before around payer choice. So where you think about you're providing a service which allows the person initiating or the entity initiating the transaction to be, you know, the critical part of it and really the core part of the service. But by considering, you know, how that entity is getting money into your ecosystem, so collecting the money in, and also considering the beneficiary, how they want to be paid, will influence then your ability to acquire more customers. So I think it's the way to look at that is you have to look at the end to end rather than just as an FX brokerage business. You're just thinking about pips and risk management and thinking about the different ways to manage that exposure. You have to think about ultimately the payment journey from start to end. And I think that's really the full kind of end-to-end solution is the key point there. And that's what we've seen a huge evolution for in the FX businesses over the course of the last 10, 20 years that we've been involved in it ourselves. So yeah, I think moving forward, there's obviously been you know, a lot of development. So you think about the banks are also, you know, getting more aware of obviously different payments systems, and they are still underservicing a lot of the kind of higher value consumers and SMEs who really need that additional kind of support. So the FX brokers certainly provide that level of risk management and service and account management, which helps to really add value and de-risk as these businesses look to globalize and not just focus on selling their products and services in new markets, but ensuring that they have the right services to drive their financial outcomes, you know, protecting them against FX risk, for example. They may not be experts in international markets, but they can count on FX brokers to be that part, you know, on their side to drive those outcomes.
Damien, would you agree with that
I definitely agree with that. Also, I think with the modern consumer, the biggest sort of thing that people are missing is the importance of a mobile phone. The smartphone innovation that's come along is just driving payment innovation at an alarming rate almost. A traditional FX broker, when I started many years ago, much more than I want to admit to, I used to pick up my phone, have a yellow pages, and basically smile and dial. And today, that's not how you do the marketing. The marketing's all sort of web-based, social media-based, and you can do what you can do on your phone now. It's just amazing. It's like spend, send, and receive all from your mobile phone in under the number of clicks. You look at how the Visa have worked with their pay to card product, it just it still amazes me that this product even exists. So it's one of the things that we're looking at with our business, because obviously we've got the traditional cash side of it, and we're giving customers, as Andrew said, more payment choices. It's like you can walk up to when you go to pay for products and when you're on holiday, you can pay in cash, you can pay with your mobile wallet, you can pay with Google Pay, Apple Pay, or you can even pay with open banking and by scanning a code in a lot of places. Without the mobile phone, this just would not be possible. So it's just, and all FX brokers now have to pay attention to the power of the phone.
There are inherent differences though between regions, right? I mean, for example, I mean, we're globalized, right? So, and our activities span from Western Hemisphere to all the way to APAC. And every time I go to one of our events, I see distinctive differences when it comes to the payments landscape. So, Latin America, it's a whole different animal when it comes to payments. It's cash based that you mentioned, for example. So, alternative payment methods in there, it's a huge thing. Then you have Africa that is very mobile based, as you're saying, and you're mentioning the social medias, right? So that, for example, among the younger generations, not even Gen Z, but like the younger generations, they're all mobile based. And I remember speaking with them during one of the summits and asking them, you know, how do you find stuff? Like, how do you look for stuff? And they were saying Instagram. And I was saying, for search? Yes, for search. Like for anything. And it was quite surprising, you know, and every single region has a different kind of trend. So, I mean, I'm very curious to know what you guys see from each of your sides, and as players that you're also very global and have a major access, what do you think are these trends regionally? Can you complete the picture?
Oh, if you could complete the picture there, you got the perfect product.
We might get to that in one of these webinars, you know?
Yeah, no, I think it's what Andrew's alluding to. It's you've got to give the customer choice, and you're going to, when you develop a product, you've got to be thinking, okay, what if you are in Germany? What if you're in Hong Kong? What if you're in Sydney? You can't just think, oh, this is a product for central London. You can't think like that anymore, because the mobility, I even see with my own children, they just want to travel the world. They don't, and they live without borders, where we've grown up in, or you go away for 2 weeks in the sun and you take a bundle of cash, you spend it and you come back and then you work for the rest of the year, where the younger generations just don't do that. And there is so many options available and it also comes down to, like, you've got to think of broadband connections in certain areas. That'll affect what payment choices the customer have, because without the connectivity, they can't have those payment choices. So there's not one size fits all at the moment.
Yeah, the Gen Z and really kind of how they're making their decisions on and things, and how they actually leveraging technology nowadays it's fascinating. It's eye-opening. I remember relatively recently someone saying that arguably Gen Z are digitally overconfident. What that means is they are less likely. Also, they are, I think it was 3 times more likely to be victims of fraud than the slightly less digitally savvy people in my gen, which I'm not going to necessarily say which gen that is. But and I think they would probably say that 90% plus they would be able to identify a scam. But because they've grown up, they are digitally native, as it were. They grew up with that. They are more trusting in many ways. So we have to, as businesses, and our duty of care is to really think about that and how we are evolving our fraud detection tools and support. And it's something with Visa, with the huge network and the different elements from the card space through to the money movement space, that leveraging that whole network is going to be pivotal. But it is really interesting to see how those trends are shifting, and thinking about forwards, like the technology of today. We're innovating for them. We're talking about the next 5 years. But actually, the consumers in the future are the ones that are now making decisions about buying choices via TikTok, or as I was with some friends yesterday and their daughters who are, I think they're early teens, they were saying that they've designed all of their elf on the shelf for the whole of December is planned out because of TikTok. You know, it's all kind of like scheduled. They made their decisions, they've done all their research that way, which is baffling but incredible.
Yeah, I actually think that fraud is going to be one of the biggest challenges to innovation, to be honest with you. It is a scary topic to even discuss. Also, too, when you look at the new APP push fraud rules, that's going to put the brakes on certain companies from trying to innovate because they're too scared of the repercussions if they get it wrong. We rely on 3DS where possible, because of the implications of fraud. Fraud is, we spend more money on fraud detection and fraud prevention than innovation, sadly, in our business, because that's the way it is as well. So it is one of the limitations of instant payments, because the expectation is to get payments to the other side in a matter of seconds, we've got to do our fraud checks in between that time, and it's a challenge.
It's a really interesting one, isn't it? Like, as we've driven to, you know, instant payments, and then actually in this webinar we talked about it earlier on about this drive to real-time instant payments, but it presents challenges in different parts there, and you're having to invest huge amounts of capital in ensuring that you have the systems to manage that, to keep your business safe as well. So it's always, you know, we always kind of talk about the international payments space, or the payment space is essentially it's a compliance business, you know, ensuring we're maintaining within the tight rigor of the regulators, but also making sure we are delivering those successful customer outcomes.
These are definitely, I mean, I'm hearing you and I'm hearing echoes of so many conversations that have been taking place over the last few months. Fraud, compliance. But when it comes to consumers, right, since we're talking about seamless payments for consumers as well, what do you think are the biggest pain points or the challenges that the consumers face when they're making cross-border payments?
I think fraud and compliance actually is the biggest pain point for them, because they don't.
For the consumers themselves.
For the consumers themselves, they don't seem to understand why we. Because obviously I deal with a lot of this at the coalface, and they don't seem to understand that it's not us being pernickety, or we're just following the regulations, and the regulators are very good at sort of giving us very general guidance and punishing us for getting it wrong. So therefore we have to be very, very thorough in all our checks, and rightly so. There should be expectations that you should trust your payments providers doing the right thing. But the level of compliance that's on the business and on the consumer themselves is more than they probably want. Well, I've seen so many responses from this consumer. It's my money. I can do what I want with it. And that is their attitude, and that creates most of the friction. And if I look at our complaints, it's always around the level of compliance that we need to do to comply with the regulations.
Right. So it's the same pain point, just different approach to it.
It's
for different reasons.
The consumers don't like it. Andrew's pointed out very well. The consumers don't like it when it's put on them to sort of help us comply. Right. Because all we're trying to do is protect their money.
And maybe it comes from a culture that is cash-based. I mean, until more recent years, even today, you know, there is a lot of different places in countries, even in Europe, where you have a cash-based, not the whole society, but maybe neighborhoods and your inner circle and small businesses and things like that is cash-based. So maybe the mentality would be applied to, I mean, I don't have to give any explanations when I give cash to somebody. I just withdraw it. It's my money. I give it to somebody. Who the hell cares? What do I do with it? It's mine. I earned it with my sweat and blood. Why should I have to explain it? So it may be related to this kind of mentality, but on the other hand, you do have, like you well pointed out, the regulators and all of the compliance that need to be done for fraud purposes and also to protect the consumer at the end of the day.
Yeah, at the end of the day, what we're trying to do is protect the consumer. But I would say that is their biggest pain. Also, the other thing is, I would say confirmation of the payer has helped a lot, removes the frictions out, because they actually get to double check the account numbers. The number of times that a consumer has said, "Oh, I've given you the wrong account details," and it's not their fault. It's very interesting to see how they behave when they've provided you with the wrong details. But the confirmation of the payer is actually helping resolve a lot of that. Now, with a great deal of certainty, the person you're paying is who you're paying. And I see this is one of the things that will, I know Swift are working on a product at the moment to identify overseas bank accounts. So when you put the details in, and it's very interesting to see, but that's where I see the biggest growth in international payments. If we can identify the beneficiary account as well as the sender's account, it's going to be a lot smoother for all parties involved. It should also simplify the compliance.
I think ultimately this comes from a place where cross-border is complex and it's opaque, and you're dependent on many different parties to get the money from one place to the next, with varying degrees of compliance checks. So to make that work smoothly is an art. It really is something which is the differentiator. If you can make that work end to end really smoothly, then that's the goal. Consumers, they face challenges, going back to your original question around high transaction costs or transparency or slow processing times. That they're the general kind of things, the battlegrounds that we're all working on to bring those down. And that's the thing I think over the course of time, delivering these solutions with transparent FX pricing, robust security measures, but delivering ease, speed, and peace of mind, I think, is really some of the core tenets of what we do. That peace of mind element when actually sending money, internationally, it doesn't feel the same as sending it to someone down the road, or as you say, Andrea, handing cash over, for example. Doing it on a global level, it feels more, it feels different. So that's what you're there to provide, these solutions. Be that Visa Protect, which is a fraud solution tool, which we're looking to roll out, is something which is really interesting to leverage the experience that Visa have got coming from that kind of card space, and thinking about money movement and how we can de-risk that for clients is going to be pivotal to deliver, again, peace of mind to the end customers, that they are not just sending their money down a pipe and hoping it's going to turn up in the destination, but they've got that certainty.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned Visa Protect now, but what are the other types of solutions and tools that Visa can provide financial institutions and payment providers to navigate all of these pain points and challenges? Because I know that Visa is usually perceived just as a card scheme, but there is a whole range of products and services that can be provided to different payment institutions.
Well, yeah, and that's in terms of the move away from Visa purely being a card organization into this money movement. It's come with this huge investment from Visa in this area. Currency Cloud were acquired a few years ago. VPL, so effectively Earthport, a number of years before that, and also Tink from an open banking perspective. There, we're looking at all of the areas of that end-to-end journey for the verticals we operate in. So be that banks, or be that fintechs, be that FX brokers, there are different use cases. This is not, as Damien actually said, it's not one size fits all. So it's actually building out, or having a trusted partner to be in your corner, to work with you, to know that actually we are there to kind of drive that innovation and think that far ahead. Like, we've got very clear plans on 2030, where we want to be by that point, and what solutions we're going to be able to deliver. and it's all along what we've just said there about driving real-time payments, driving the innovations, for focusing on how to be paid, how to get money into the ecosystem, as well as how to pay, and thinking about the beneficiary as well, not just the person initiating, but how does that person want to receive the money, the most money, as quickly as possible, and also adhering to the local regulatory and security. So when we talk about that business being opaque, what we're trying to do is, abstract all that complexity, be the trusted partner that can actually then deliver these solutions which work in your business, so you can focus on doing what it is that you do, the really exciting solutions that you're doing, Damien. But we're just there as a trusted partner to deliver those innovations.
Yeah, I've got to say, during the summer, obviously our busiest period of the year, we worked really closely with Checkout and Visa in reducing the fraud numbers, and we've reduced fraud significantly with the help of the 3DS solution from Visa, and also to just identifying bad actors through their fraud protect service, and we were able to narrow it down to a very, very small percentage of users were committing the majority of the fraud. It was able to block them and cut them off at source, where they couldn't even process or attempt to process an order, which when you actually start looking at how Visa are doing this, it's absolutely stunning and it's only through investment and innovation if they've been able to achieve this.
It's the network as well. If you think about actually on the card space, the amount of transactions, I do not have a stat for this one, I'm sorry. The amount of transactions that we see across our network on a global basis, and the patterns we see, and all of the AI, which is looking at that to then find a typology of these various different innovative ways that the fraudsters are also building into their kind of systems and processes. It's scary how much innovation is happening on that side of things, but because we have this huge network, we're able to assimilate all of that to therefore put it into our products and solutions.
It's 4:40 now, 2:40 GMT. So let's
that
start.
went a lot quicker than I thought.
I told you. Let's try to wrap up with some final thoughts. Maybe you can give some actionable tips to all the guys that are listening in here, and maybe some projection for 2025. Andrew, can you start?
Great question. So actionable tips. The first thing I would probably say is start thinking about, if you aren't already, thinking about adopting the next kind of phases, the advanced technologies, and really staying agile as well. Whatever has worked up to this point for you isn't necessarily going to be what's going to be delivering the customer outcomes in the future. So start thinking about how you can work with your payment provider to drive these positive outcomes. Ensure you're listening to your customers, of course. That's one of the biggest thing there, what they kind of need, and then really focusing on that, because the portability of transactions, or the portability of customers, the ability to open up an account with a different provider is so much more prominent than there was in it. You used to think it's much more of a relationship business, but if you're not delivering to those end customer or the customer outcomes, then you will certainly see that will be a challenge moving forward. So think about, looking forwards, think about the innovations in payments and how your payment partner can help you out on that.
Yeah.
Thank you, Andrew.
Damien? Yeah, mine is similarly, the predictions for 2025 and beyond is all driven by your customer. What your customer wants, not what you want. And I'd probably recommend most FX brokers, old traditional FX brokers, hop on a plane and go do some traveling. And the best way, go see what else the rest of the world are doing. It's really, really interesting. Recently went to Hong Kong, and it was just how they were making payments and what they were doing just amazed me, considering where they were 20 years ago.
Interesting one. Great. Thank you so much, both of you. We're going to open up for Q&A. We have a few questions coming up on the chat and on the Q&A. So I'm going to start with this one, very specific, by Alton. Can you explain how the Visa Direct service works versus SWIFT in terms of upper limits on transactions, etc.? Andrew, I'm guessing that one is for you.
Yeah.
It could well be for me. So the first thing to mention is that Visa Direct is now effectively the umbrella term for all of the acquired services underneath that have really come together over the last good few years to provide this overall solution. So we have got Currency Cloud, we've got VPL, which is formerly Earthport, and we've also got B2B Connect. Those are the three kind of key tenets of that. Now, for example, previously as Currency Cloud, you'd be able to instruct real-time local payments or SWIFT, for example. And under Visa Direct as well, you have VDA, which is paying to accounts, which is a very similar service to Currency Cloud payouts in terms of accessing SWIFT or local payout routes there. And on top of that, Visa Direct also has pay to wallet and pay to card, as Damien was talking about there. So it's really on top of just SWIFT. You're basically having that optionality to choose whether you want to provide a service where you can pay the beneficiaries to their card, to their wallet, or to their account. B2B Connect is also effectively another part of that service, really for high value transactions as well. So whether you're making small, lower value transactions, whether you're making high value transactions, the whole kind of remit is covered within the Visa Direct service there. In terms of specifically any kind of guardrails around transaction limits, that's maybe slightly more of there's no, from a scheme perspective, limit, but there's, as Damien was kind of saying before, there's almost additional due diligence around that. So if you've got a really high value transaction out and you want to do, then let's have a conversation. Absolutely.
Thank you so much, Andrew. Maybe we move to another question. We have a few more, but I'm going to pick up just two more for the sake of time. But for anybody that we're not answering their questions, I mean, Andrew and Damien can both easily be found on LinkedIn. Just find them there, send them a direct message, and they will be ready for answering. Okay, next question by Ricky. So with the world of financial services evolving rapidly with constant shifts in consumer behaviors, to try to stay ahead of the curve, what do you feel could be the one thing to watch out for in the future of finance?
Can I take that on, Damien?
I'm going to have a chat with Ricky in a little while. He's going to have to meet Leroy. Yes, one thing. I don't know where to go with this one.
What I'll jump in and say though is that there is something that if you think about jobs markets and things like that, you're thinking forward 5-10 years, the jobs that are, let's say if you're teenage children, the jobs that they will be doing haven't been created yet. So if you're thinking about that, there is always going to be such a change there. So it's more of a mindset about staying agile and being aware of what's going on in the market and working with your partners to leverage their experience. They may have a wider network. AI is obviously changing in many different areas, the businesses there. So that's something which is really exciting to see how that's kind of working. And again, on the fraud detection side of things, leveraging AI has been one of the key things. But there's so many different ways it can be introduced into the businesses to deliver the right outcomes, to keep the businesses safe, but again, focusing on delivering good customer outcomes as well.
I'm actually going to jump in because I do have the one thing to look out for in the future of finance. From Finance Magnates as a group, with our scope across all 4 industries and our offline, online activities, everything data and intelligence it's a big part of what we do. And I'm in a privileged position to be able to have an outlook of a big picture of what's going on. And I think if there is one thing to look out for in the near future is AI. You mentioned now some of it, but what you said and everything else that we have been talking about and what we have not talked about, all of that is directly going to be impacted by AI. It's already impacting fraud. It's already impacting the way we make transactions. It's impacting the way we make investments. If we're talking about broader finance, not just payments finance, it's impacting the way we make investment choices, investment portfolios, the travel plans that we make. Where do we book our flights? Where are we going to visit? Family trips to where is safe, where is not, everything is going to be influenced by AI in one way or the other. And payments is not going to be an exception. It's going to have a different framework, but like you're saying, the jobs of the future are not invented yet today. And I think that AI is going to have a big role to play in all of that. So I would say stay tuned to it, and any out of the box thinking and ideas that are associated with AI, in this case in payments, are definitely something to watch out for.
Yeah, Andrea, I definitely have to agree with that one. We use AI as our pricing engine, so all our pricing is done by AI. It used to be us with pen and paper editing prices throughout the day. Now the computer does all our price setting for us.
Mm-hmm.
And it runs.
In the 70s, there were chalkboards.
Oh, we had the squawk box. That's how old I am. Anyway, moving on.
I couldn't possibly comment.
That was one of my first jobs. Just squawking down the FX prices down a little box. Very boring job, but led to an interesting career.
But it started.
Yes.
So exactly. Now it's AI doing the box.
Yeah, which is sad, but it is sad in some respects because, as Andrew points out, the jobs haven't been created. So jobs that we enjoyed and we've grown up with and led us on these career paths won't exist in the future. It is all going to be AI and computer programming.
Yeah.
Sorry,
One last question.
I think I told you. Andrew was about to talk and I jumped over him. Sorry.
One last question that we're going to take, and then we will wrap up. Let's see. Where do you see the industry moving the goalpost for the protection of payments? Is it going to be a receiver or sender liability when the provider cannot absorb that?
That's a great question.
That's a very tricky one.
Yeah. Damien, do you have a view on that one?
It depends. I sort of feel like the regulator is putting it on us, but ultimately, at some point, we will be able to. Ultimately, it should go down to the sender. The sender is the one controlling the payment. To me, it's like if the sender does something wrong or sends it to the wrong beneficiary, they have to sort of take responsibility for that. But that's a tough question because so many things can go wrong in cross-border payments. I don't know what your thoughts are, Andrew.
I think it's, if you're thinking about like that's a very tricky one. I think they're trying to get like the shared responsibility is kind of the key. And as you're developing products and services which actually enable, and it's almost the unintended consequence of going back to this point about instant payments, and then the increase in like fraud, and actually how is it faster payments or SEPA? The faster payments, they've introduced an artificial slowing down to give providers that opportunity to do their checks. You're saying there, Damien. But yeah, I think it's a really good question. I'm happy to pick this one up offline once I probably refer to my colleagues in that area who are maybe a little bit more attuned to answer that one. But
it's not an easy one.
This is the sort of question you classify as a hospital pass.
Great. So we're going to leave that one for offline conversations and corridor talks. And let's hope that we come up with a solution to that topic, because it is a very tricky one.
You've got the next subject of your next webinar.
It might be. You know, these kind of conversations, I always say it when it comes to webinars and panels where you put a few brains together working at the same time on the same topic, it's not the first time that great ideas come to life and they spark something that develops into a full product and maybe even a branch within an industry. So I don't put it beyond beyond that. Maybe out of this, somebody will start thinking and will create a product and a solution based on solving that. Go figure.
I just have to plug the question into AI first to get the answer.
Maybe it will have the answer for us. Great. Thank you so much. That was the last question we're gonna cover. It's 4:54 to 54 GMT, so we're on time. I'm gonna thank both Damien and Andrew. Thank you so much for your insights. Thank you for everybody that attended today. If you want to rewind and watch the webinar, is going to be published on the social media channels as we mentioned, and you will be able to watch it, go back to it, and feel free to contact Damien and Andrew in their own LinkedIn. They will be happy to hear from you. Thank you so much, everyone. It's been a great pleasure, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Thank you.
Bye-bye.